Welcome to Cannes Lions. This is day 3. My name is Thomas and I'm from Good Advertising. We have a really interesting panel here today with a key question. Can brands be more human in the age of AI? No doubt about it these days, it does seem like AI is on the top shopping list of any CMO out there, and things like sustainability, human beings, citizens seems to be pushed down the list. And even when our poster child of sustainability and climate, Greta Thunberg, is involved in wars, it does seem like very uncertain times in terms of how we navigate all of these things. AI has been very much front and center at the Palais. Even the opening keynote by Thomas Kolster demonstrated that AI will be integrated into businesses, just how we do it. And to answer some of these really good questions, I'm so excited that I have a mix of perspectives here, I would say, because Andrea Ciulu, he is head of AI and a brand strategist at Arkage. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about what is Arkage for those of our viewers who don't know Arkage?
Well, Arkage is an independent creative agency from Italy. We're based in Rome and Milan, and we work a lot with creative strategy and technology as well. So we've been playing with AI for a long time, and we made quite a clear idea of how we can help brands be more human and not just more effective.
And I like the and. It is really not just either or, it's an and. And I know Femke van Loon for Innate Motion and us have quite a history going back some years, so I'm very happy you're here. I absolutely love your title and always have, Business Humanizer and CEO, so I think you can see where we're sitting on the table. We have AI, we have the more human side here. What does Innate Motion do? How do you humanize businesses?
Thanks for being here together today. I'm really excited. I think there's so much happening, so many exciting conversations at Cannes, and especially around this humanizing, right? Because we've never had so many titles of speeches, so much content around actually humans and human creativity and how does it work together with AI. So to answer your question, Innate Motion is a growth strategy, a humanized growth strategy firm. And we've always said from the start, 18 years ago, that we are in the world to help business people apply more human logic to their business in a world that applies a lot of business logic to humans. So that conversation now suddenly seems to be on every stage here. So I'm really glad to share a bit of our perspective and also share with everyone who couldn't make it to be here a bit of what is going on.
It's a very good point. I think we need to open up this conversation to more people that are not just in the Palais. And as I said, the opening keynote from Thomas Kolster, the VP of Apple, also talked about this idea about sort of human touch. But obviously, I think the big question on everybody's mind is, how do we find the right balance? Because as an industry, it does seem like we tend to always just mirror what's happening there. We don't really take in a leadership. We don't actually think about how human can be a growth driver. So how do we get human and AI to work together?
Well, the first thing I see as a value in AI is acting as a mirror and probably a reckoning moment for the industry. I have to say there is a lot of positive opinions on AI, but understandably there is a bit of fear and a bit of friction. And the friction is about the fear of substitution, of course. I mean, we don't sugarcoat it. I mean, any creative is saying this AI can create, so that's the problem. But I think it's not just about the current moment. We talk about the age of AI, but it's actually if you want, it's the culmination of the digital age, which is quite longer. And the digital age brought some changes to the industry, of course. Little by little, we got used to thinking in a more algorithmical way, in a more binary way, if you want. And now AI, which is binary, can do that pretty well, and we are scared. So I think we are rediscovering our edge as humans, because that's the only way that we can actually, make AI not so destructive, but actually helpful. And for creatives, I think this is going to be a magnificent opportunity if we get on top of that. That's something that it's actually quite urgent to go beyond the denial stage, which is probably what's blocking a lot of people. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to use it because of many reasons. But that's very dangerous because the denial stage is just waiting, and you want to move to the proactive stage where you actually get a control over this tool. So I see lots of opportunities, and I see young people, especially people who are getting in this industry as, you could say, AI natives in a way. They are more open to using this technology in a creative way. I think there is a good way forward if we go through understanding.
I love the saying, Andrea, it's almost like you're a couple therapist. It's like, let's get over the denial stage. Let's figure out how we actually get a better relationship with AI. So it's a very good point. And I think that also points to what you're doing in the day-to-day business, Femke, because, I mean, by the end of the day, brands are a bunch of people who work together. There's a culture there that is in so many ways a driving force of what that brand is. I always kind of felt that strong brands, you can sense that. When you talk to somebody from Lego, it's as much internal and external, right? So what do you think the sort of role of culture is in sort of driving this change and to your point, making the couples therapy work a little bit better?
Yeah, I think culture is fundamental more than ever in this age of, a lot of communication being pushed out on bigger platforms to more people. There's lots of scale involved. It's going to be even more important to be very clear about who we are, what is our core philosophy, what are our core values here, and who do we want to become? How do we want to serve the world? I think the core function of marketing and communication will not change. It's always about finding a unique role for yourself and a set of strong beliefs and products and services that make you stand out, and then build relationships. Build relationships with people out there, be part of culture, participate, but with a very strong sense of what is your soul. Now that part we are learning here, we cannot outsource. We cannot delegate to AI, and that's exciting about it, right? What I do see though is that AI can help us in that journey. So with respect to other technology that we saw before, now we can use, and it will of course grow, technology to be part of that soul searching.
Yeah.
For example, I heard 2 days ago at the start of this festival that whilst a year ago in these in ChatGPT and Copilot, the main thing that people were doing 2 years ago and a year ago was asking for information, search. Right?
I'm that person as well.
Okay,
I started
so
using chat as a search engine.
Now,
Sorry, Google.
What do you think is the main thing that young people are doing?
Yeah, I wouldn't actually know.
I think it's not reassuring.
It's the function of life coach. It's
oh wow!
soul
Back
search.
to the relationship. Yeah.
So that's very interesting, right? How can AI actually support us to do that even better? But I also think that anxiety about, is it going to replace us? That can never happen, of course, because that hard work of looking into yourself, who you are, who you can become, and what is between us that makes us go further, that is a human magic that I think will always need to be cultivated.
I absolutely love that point that, there's still relevance. It's still about soul. It's still about humans. And in fact, also, I do see even evolving AIs like Pi and others being more sort of focusing on the human dimensions of growth. So it's just not all tech. A lot of agencies these days are obviously asking themselves, damn, what are we going to do? How do we integrate AI into our workflows? Let's be honest, there is also a big part of our industry, myself included, that got gray hairs, that aren't digital natives, sorry to say. So how did you go about that journey, and how do you feel that AI is actually helping you as a creative agency maybe become more creative even?
There are a few ways actually, and you need to work on those, I think, as a creative team. We always say that we go back to the design model of being divergent and convergent. So AI is very good at accelerating the first phase, where you just map out things. It's very bad at making choices. It's very bad at finding quality. So the first thing for a young creative today, or any creative if you want, is to understand what AI can do well and where AI is just an illusion, right? So I make it a matter of culture for creatives in our team, for example. You need to understand to set your expectations. You will get very frustrated if you expect it to do something in the second phase. You will be very happy if you work in the first phase. So that's the first thing. The second thing it does, it accelerates prototyping, so you can devise bad ideas quicker, and you can just iterate more, and you can try more. But the final point, and it's curious because I attended two speeches today, and they were about this same word, is the idea of risk.
Yeah.
Risk is a crucial point here. Risk-taking is vital to our industry, and it's vital to great ideas. We saw some in the awards, and the best ones were risking it all. AI doesn't risk it. AI is a best practice machine. So AI is very liked by people who don't like risk, because it will drive you to a mediocre result. So if you let AI drive, it will give you good results if you work in a space that doesn't like risking. So from a creative point of view, it works if you don't want to risk it. It's like, nobody was fired for using IBM. There is a famous campaign about that. So risking and getting, having the stubbornness to bring that idea to life. We saw some that had a very long process to get now. I mean, we know that it's all about human stubbornness there. That's our role, to say this is not perfect, it's not ideal, it's not what the average track record would suggest, but I still believe in it, and I will push through 50 rounds of feedback to get it out. That's what the creative team does. AI is a good co-pilot. You were talking about therapy, and it's not, it's curious because the first AI chatbot in 1960, the Eliza, was actually a mock therapist. But it was just, serving your sentences back to you. It was just doing that kind of therapy where you say something, I say it back to you, I help you find your way by yourself. I don't give you a direction. So I would say this is for creatives. You just use it in your background, and of course, as a visualizing tool, you can do a lot of stuff, but the risking part is up to you. So it's not going to shield you. That's the main thing that the creatives should know.
I love that, and I think one of our industry legends, David Droga, in his early years, always said that he wanted his creative team to put up around 100 napkins of ideas, so then they could start selecting, and in some way, as you say about this sort of divergent and how you actually use that tool just to give us more ideas and actually maybe put humans even more at the steering, the driver's seat. Yeah. It's a very good point, and I think your point about risk is something that I think we tend to forget. Great creativity involves risk, right?
So yeah, a lot of it. It should send shivers down your spine, and when you work with I think we got too accustomed to best practices in general, so we find AI very smooth in our workflows. That's wrong. I mean, that's why I say it's a mirror. When AI does exactly what you do, it means you are the machine. It doesn't mean that AI is human. You've become machine-like, risk-averse, predictable, and so on. That's why it's a good way. It's a good negative benchmark if you want.
Yeah.
If you get to the same solution that the AI proposes, that maybe you need to do some soul searching and think differently, probably.
And this will probably also kind of change how people view creativity, view the campaigns out there, view the very brands. And so, as I said, too many gray hairs, definitely not a AI native in any way or shape or form. But there's a younger generation who sort of gets this, Gen Z and Alpha. Do you think their expectations to brands will shift? What will AI do to their expectations?
Yeah, so there's one part of me thinking this is going to be great because it democratizes basically content creation, and so many people, and there are of course in the young generation so many bright, disruptive minds, so many more of those are going to be able to emerge. So that's super exciting. On the other side, as Andrea was saying, AI is a disruptive technology, but it's not delivering disruptive ideas. It's not actually pushing us further. So, and that involves craft.
Yes.
And that involves art, and that involves experience. And I think our generation, we have been lucky enough to learn over time, to do things wrong, to take time for failure, to become... Yesterday there was James Blake here on stage, and he's a musician, right? And he played this beautiful song, and everybody was so touched. And that type of thing, of course, takes years to get to that level. So how are young people still going to learn that craft so that they are able to direct and use AI in a way that is actually pushing us further as humanity? That's a question I do ask myself.
Yeah, because in some ways I do think that it's not that technology haven't been around. I mean, as I said, when I started around, it was Basecamp. We've had all these amazing tools in our hands. You can edit videos, you can shoot videos on an iPhone. Yet it doesn't actually seem that the creative output is getting any better. Shockingly enough, right? There's just more mediocre stuff, which maybe comes back to your point, the human at the driver's seat. I mean, you obviously been through this journey, and as an agency and as a creative agency, you can obviously take an sort of opportunity approach, a carrot approach to this. I think a lot of brands maybe at the moment are looking at the riskier side. So what's sort of your advice when you start a client relationship? What is sort of the future proofing that they need to go through? I know it's a bit boring to talk about that, but we talked a little bit about possibilities, but what is it that you would guide them towards?
I think it's, I won't reply with a technical answer because I think it's mostly a cultural matter for companies, but it relates to cultural proficiency with the tool. What I find very often when talking with companies that are approaching AI is that a lot of them are judging the whole phenomenon from a not very well informed point of view. Like, I used GPT once, I made my idea, and that's it. Now, the technology is complex, it has its potential, it has its limitation, and I find that the more you interact with the technology, the more you understand its nuances, and you create a deeper understanding. So for me, yes, companies can, of course, integrate AI technically, depending on their profile. There are many different ways. But since we're talking about culture, and culture is about every person in a company, it's not just about a PDF somewhere. You need to have every person understand what AI means in terms of first principles. Not the specific platforms are transient, they will come and go. But the principles of what to expect are going to stay. And it's the same for kids. I have 3 kids, they're AI natives probably. They play with image generation tools already. They have fun.
I just feel so old when you say that, but thank you.
I mean, for them it's just natural, just fun. But they will need to learn what AI is and how it works, right? For companies, it's not so easy. It's like you get the AI guy, maybe you get one person, he knows everything or she knows everything, and that's it, right? But that's not how it works. Even if you're not the one in charge of deploying, you need to understand what to expect, right? You need to understand the boundaries. You need to get a gut feeling of what is AI doing for you. And that takes, I don't think it's just attending courses. It's playing with the tools. You need to play. You need to just be curious about that. If you are just scared or you think you know it all, that's a bad point to start, I think.
And that should be very close to what we are about as human beings, right? It is sort of self-actualization, self-exploration. But obviously, and I understand as CMOs and as creatives, there's so many things you always feel you need to learn. And I think you've got a good point around AI and brands, because quite often, and young people especially, I remember when my niece was on Instagram the first time, I always teased most of my brands that I was working with that my niece was better on Instagram than they were. So there's sort of like a truth to that brands still need to get used to that. And so it kind of seemed like, and we've seen that in sustainability, we've seen that in so many other issues, but when brands try to use AI to sort of lure in younger generations, what's some of the mistakes that you're witnessing right now? I know we talk a little bit about the negative side, but I think it's good to sort of cover that as well.
Yeah, I agree. So there's this myth, right, that now that we have AI, we can outsource all the sort of, we can get a lot of efficiency, we can outsource all the research that requires scale, we can delegate a lot of stuff to AI, and that's going to give us more time. I actually don't think it's going to give us more time. And it's also not so smart to, think about, oh, now we're going to be all freer and only 10% of the people are going to be working and the rest of us are going to, I don't know, do what. So
I had a guy at a conference in Latvia who talked about the one-man startup or one-woman startup. The rest was AI assistants. So you don't buy into that?
No, I think for now, at least, we don't know what's going to happen. But I think for now, with what we see, for our company, and I like to be the right example, we said we're all going to be in this evolution very deeply, and we are going to contribute to see how we do human understanding, human connection, soul searching, strategy, creative strategy writing, right? We're going to see how we can actually train AI to be the best possible collaborator. And that takes time, like you say. That takes, but that's the very exciting part here, I think. How we can evolve, not just say what's going to be human and what's going to be AI, but actually how in this messiness of between humans, how are we going to evolve together?
I love how both sides, even though I sort of framed you a little bit as just the AI guy, sort of use a human language, and we get back to talking about relationships. And this is difficult, I mean, but what is the one question, and let's try and make it short, but what is sort of one question that brand should probably be asking itself on this journey? And we start with you, and then we can go to Femke afterwards.
I will probably go back to the benchmark argument. Yeah. Like, can AI just reproduce what our brand does and says? Because if it can today, it's a problem. It means you become formulaic. So I think that's the main question. Can it replicate me now? I need to do something then.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I couldn't, if we rip off any AI, everything that's constructed around it, and we're just left with the soul, is that still enough? Because at the very end, that is what that will help us to build a brand, right, and to grow.
Yeah, it almost seems like having a brand or a loved one, for that sake, to stay in the relationship analogy, send you an automated Valentine's love letter.
Who wants that?
Doesn't really give us a lot. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
So thoughtful.
And an AI-generated message back, right?
Exactly. And I think that sort of demonstrates that we cannot succeed without a human element.
No.
Brands still need to involve and invest human energy into this. I know we sort of got down a little bit to sort of pessimistic way, and obviously it is sometimes difficult because, as you probably have seen as well in your companies, that people are anxious. Will I have my job tomorrow? Will my role evolve? I got gray hairs. Am I still relevant at all? All these questions that create a lot of anxiety. So let's try and end a little bit of an optimistic note here. So what excites you about AI and branding and our industry going forward? What should we be looking forward to?
I believe in breaking the toys, and I believe in humans breaking the toys.
Breaking the toys.
I love when artists and creators and creatives do this. And I believe that this is a specifically human thing that we keep doing. We get the toys. At first, the toys are more complex than us. Then we get a bit bored, and we break them, and we create things that were not supposed to be created with those. So I'm excited to see what millions of people will do when they finally lose their fear of the toy and just break it apart and say, this is a way to use it you haven't thought about, and it's not what the company producing it thought about, but I made it. Yes, that's what I'm excited about. Lots of people are testing now. We should experiment and find something that's surprising.
I think it's a very good point, and I think it's something we do actually see in Cannes Lions and the award categories as well, that when you have any on a given technology, the metaverse or whatever it might be, there's these early ideations of just sort of almost simply applying it as a tool, and then we start seeing creatives break the rule book, destroy, kill the toy, and sort of find new creative ways. So sort of more from a human perspective, or what's your sort of take on the optimism that I should be looking forward to, so I don't throw this microphone and run away?
Yeah, so I think with every new technology, there's always been this resistance in the beginning, right? Even like Photoshop, or the first time that we had a mobile phone, or internet for that sake. This is just another one of those revolutions. And I do hear a lot of fear here. At Cannes this year, there is a lot of insecurity, exactly what you are pointing to. But I want to go back to the word you used about risk-taking. Yeah, it is always worth to see what risks we can take in this case, where we can dare to go and explore how we can get actually further in our human potential. There's so much already showing now that this revolution will help us be more creative, be more human, be more relevant, be more meaningful. Let's grab the opportunity and explore it together.
I absolutely love that, in terms of actually also not just with fear not acting, but actually starting to lead and think about that this can be about more. And I think you had a lot of good points about, you've got to start with culture, you've got to involve everybody, you've got to take them on the journey, and then obviously ultimately, after a while, maybe break the toy, you know, use it as a creative driver, sometimes create a new rule book. And I think for you, saying branding is not going to change. It's still about human soul. Finding that human soul is just so essential. And then actually maybe turning around and ask ourselves the question, what more? How can we be more human? I really wholeheartedly enjoyed this conversation. I don't think it's the last time we're going to discuss AI and the human side of this, and I really love sort of how the two perspectives come nicely together. So it's almost like, I feel like, in a weird way, the couple therapist. We moved you to the middle and grabbing hand as humans. I think that's very, very beautiful. There will be lots of other AI and human discussions going forward. Do follow Andrea and Femke on socials. I'm sure they'll be much more outspoken about what we can expect, and hopefully, and thank you for wholeheartedly giving an injection of hope here today. So thank you so much. Thank you, Femke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Thank you.